Ravenous. Written by The Stranger. Oh, how the fire spread throughout the house. The burning flames snuffed out all who crossed its wretched path. The family inside found no refuge from the lingering smoke that dared wander through the halls. Dorothea watched as the screams dissipated over charred bodies. This ravaged her brain as the agony settled in. She pushed through burning wood and rubble until she made it outside with burn marks all over her body. Her panic came full force as she turned to see the little house swallowed by flames. Her own screams bellowed into the air as the sound of hooves rang down the dirt road. "You there, girl! What's the problem?" the man on the horse said. My family, they were in there," Dorothea said, pointing to the burning house. As the man looked around, he could see a group of townsfolk had gathered around them in awe of what was happening. The man slowly got off his horse and put his hand on the girl's shoulder. "It's all right. We can take care of you now. There's nothing you need to worry about," the man said. "17 years later. Dorothea was now 24 years old. Her family had been long dead by that point. Her memories of them were faint, but still vivid enough to give her nightmares. The family that had taken her in were of royal status. They were called the Celtridet family, which was a surname given after the father, Alexander Celtridet, betrayed his family. They were called the Alexandrescu family, which he turned against in order to keep them from abusing their power over the people. The Celtridet family was comprised of the parents, 2 older brothers, 1 younger sister, and Dorothea. The younger sister barged into Dorothea's room as she wrote in her journal. "They're just starting. Don't be late," the sister said. Dorothea closed the journal and made her way through the halls of the castle to the main chamber. The room was cold as the air outside was becoming frigid as autumn approached. The other family members surrounded a shiny golden spire that was in the middle of the room. It stretched from the ground towards the ceiling, which had a circular opening that revealed the night sky. One of the older brothers looked over to Dorothea as they entered the room. His name was Nikolai. "Hey, pisspot, did you have some trouble getting here?" the brother sneered. "Let's just get on with it," Dorothea said in a low and uncaring voice. "All of beauty and grace, bequeath your knowledge once more," the mother said. The spire glowed brighter as a beam of green light shot down from the sky and touched the top of the structure. "O great God of ours, choose now the host that will possess this righteous power," the mother said. Suddenly, the beam shot forward at someone in the room. As Dorothea looked up from covering her face, she saw what had happened. The power had been given to the sister. The sister, whose name was Katina, looked at her hands with a sheer feeling of true power. The mother, whose name was Starline, went and grabbed Katina's shoulders as she recited her speech. "My child, you have been gifted with a power greater than anything you could ever imagine. It is your responsibility to use these abilities as it may seem fit. Do you understand that?" Starline said. "Of course I will, mother. No one could be more deserving of this blessing than me," Katina said. "Everyone rejoice," the father said. The entire family celebrated by pouring themselves glasses of wine and toasting each other all around the spire. All except for Dorothea, whose blood was boiling. Katina turned to her with a privileged smile on her face. "Dorothea, you're in my way," Katina said as she walked past her and down the hall. Outside in a courtyard by the castle's back entrance, Dorothea was busy kicking around the freshly bloomed flowers from the garden. "It's not fair. Why does she deserve those powers and I don't?" Dorothea said. The older brother in the family leaned against a stone pillar as he spoke. "She got it because she's part of the bloodline, nothing more," he said. "Then why do the rules indicate that anyone that was in the room could have gained the power? I had just as much of a chance of having it as her, perhaps even more," Dorothea said. "The old god works in mysterious ways. Whether he is benevolent or not, I am unsure. What I do know is that this doesn't change anything. All we can hope for is that it goes to the right person next time," he said. The brother's name was Soren. He, unlike Nikolai, was much more kind-hearted than most of his family members. He was the reason Dorothea put up with the others for so long. It must have been passed on from his mother, Starline, who was the only other person who showed compassion to her. She still believed in the old god's ways, however. Periodically, the old god would give its power to one of the members of that family. Dorothea did not know where this being originated, nor how they became affiliated with the family. All she knew was that they entrusted themselves to it. Its power is what made them so well known, after all, especially with the townsfolk. She was desperate to have that power herself. It was, after all, what she rightfully deserved after all the torment she had endured. Soren escorted Dorothea inside as the rain poured down above the overturned weeds. Just across from the castle was a small town overlooked by the Seltradet family. Dorothea accompanied Katina as they walked the streets greeting the townspeople. She had no interest in walking with her sister, however her curiosity struck as to what Katina may use her powers for. As they walked, they noticed a woman with a cart filled with flowers. Some of them were wilting and getting ready to die. "Would you like some help with that?" Katina said, raising her hand. Green light began to emit from her fingertips as the flowers began to bloom again. By the time she was finished, they looked as if they had just sprouted. "Oh, thank you! I was worried I'd have to buy more. You're amazing," the woman exclaimed. "I know," Katina said with a smirk. She walked off, leaving Dorothea to try to catch up to her. Dorothea looked back to see the woman with a confused expression on her face. She quickly brushed it off as she tried to go about her business. "You didn't have to be so snarky about it," Dorothea said. "Why shouldn't I? She doesn't have what I have. Her job is to adore me and nothing more," Katina said. "She thinks your kindness is genuine. I hope you don't take advantage of that," Dorothea said. "You think my family hasn't done that for generations? What would it change now?" Katina said. "It would make us better people. Isn't that what the old god would want?" Dorothea said. "The old god would want us to oversee these people the way we see fit. How would you know? You're technically not a part of this family," Katina said. "And yet your father took me in anyway," Dorothea said. "Is that so?" "Do you believe that was genuine?" Katina said. Unbridled rage festered inside Dorothea once more. Her sister was a devil wrapped in fine clothing. She couldn't even walk the streets without showing off to the townsfolk. Her gifts were used as nothing more than party tricks to appease an unending crowd. "Does either of you have something I could light my pipe with?" a man said. "Of course." Hold it still," Katina said. She lit a fire off the tip of her index finger and applied it to the tobacco. Smoke filled the air as the man inhaled from the pipe. "Thank you, milady," the man said. "Of course," Katina said. Back inside the castle, Dorothea visited her adoptive mother in the royal bedroom. As she walked in, Starline was looking out from the balcony. "What are you looking at?" Dorothea said. "Come see," Starline said. Dorothea joined her as she witnessed Katina down below bringing a field of crops to life with her bare hands. "That's quite an ability," Dorothea said. "She's only using half of the power," Starline said. "What do you mean?" Dorothea said. Starline looked at her as if she was trying to hide the fear in her eyes. "What brings you over here?" Starline said, changing the subject. "I just thought I'd visit. The whole family has been a little much lately," Dorothea said. "I'm sorry I couldn't be of much help. It seems that every time I try to punish those kids for how they treat you, it gets worse," Starline said. "They're hard to manage. That's why it still baffles me that both Nikolai and Katina were given powers by the old god," Dorothea said. "I have faith. There's always a chance that it will get better," Starline said. "Not if Nikolai still has his way. Didn't you hear him call me pisspot? He's tortured me ever since I got here." He's what this family doesn't want to talk about, Dorothea said. Trust me, Dorothea, there's a lot that this family would not like to talk about, Starlene said. I, myself, like the part where Pisspot thought she could talk behind my back, a voice said. Through the door, a brother was watching from the other room. It wasn't the brother Dorothea was hoping for. As Nikolai walked in, a sense of danger washed over Dorothea. So you tell me that this piece of shit can talk about me however she wants to and you don't give a fuck? Nikolai said. No, Nikolai, that's not what she means. Please forgive her, Starlene said. What the fuck is forgiveness gonna solve? Can you forgive yourself for raising an orphan? Nikolai said. Dorothea lost control, flailing her arm in Nikolai's direction. Her fist collided with his face, sending blood streaming from his lips. He touched his face and felt the warm liquid on his fingertips. You sack of shit! Nikolai screamed as he raised his hand, lifting Dorothea off the ground. As she levitated in the air, Starlene just sat there and stared. Mom, help me! Dorothea screamed as she was thrusted out the window. She fell at a rapid pace before hitting the ground below. Dorothea woke up in her bed with an immense headache. At her bedside was Soren, who stared angrily at the wall. Hey, what happened? Dorothea said. You got hurt, Soren said. I know that. Where's everyone else? Dorothea said. They didn't come, Soren said. He kept looking at the door as if he was expecting someone to walk through it. What do you mean? Isn't Starlene coming? Dorothea said. She tried to get up. However, her head began to feel worse. I wouldn't do that. You got hurt severely from what they told me, Soren said. Soren, where's Starlene? Dorothea said. Soren looked at Dorothea, brandishing the same angry expression. I just got into an argument with her. She said you were better off dead, Soren said in a whisper. What? Dorothea mustered. I didn't want to tell you that, but I felt like it was best for you to know, Soren said. You're lying! She would never say that, Dorothea said as her head continued to pound. That's what she told me. She didn't mention why, she just said it was for the best. I argued with her for over an hour about it, Soren said. But why would she do that? Dorothea said. That was my question. Either way, she refused to heal you. I had to take care of you myself, Soren said. So you're telling me that she's not even willing to use her powers to save me? Dorothea said. Yes. I'm sorry, Soren said. Dorothea was distraught. This woman had loved her since the family took her in. Instead of showing love, she betrayed her. Dorothea did nothing but look up at the ceiling as she lay there motionless. And she would remain that way for countless hours. Dorothea woke up again much later to find that she had healed at a rapid pace. She checked her wounds and found that she had fully recovered. Even her head felt like there had been no headache at all. Happy with the results, Pisspot? Nikolai said. He was standing up against the wall, gloatingly, as he spoke. You know, I could have kept you like that, but I heard what happened with Mother. I figured it's much more entertaining to see you two get pissed off at each other, Nikolai said. Dorothea threw herself out of the bed without uttering a word and went down the hall towards the royal bedroom. She flung the doors open to see Alexander standing by the bed, with Starlene sitting next to him. Hello, Dorothea. Have you come to talk to me about something? Alexander said. I have a question for both of you, Dorothea said angrily. And what would that question be, darling? Starlene said, facing away from her. The question of why neither of you tried to help me. Why you said it's better if I die, Dorothea said. Dorothea, I don't know how to tell you this. You wouldn't understand, Starlene said. Alexander approached Dorothea with a stern expression in his eyes. Dorothea, it's time I told you, Alexander said. No, you cannot tell her, Starlene said. Tell me what, Dorothea said. The truth about your parents, Alexander said. Dorothea fell silent. Alexander's voice ran cold as he spoke again. A long time ago, our royal family was much larger than it is now. In fact, you are already aware that we used to be called the Alexandrescus. Well, that story isn't as truthful as we made it out to be. Yes, I betrayed my family, but not for good reasons. You see, they used to be the ones that controlled the Spire. I wanted that power so badly, yet it never came to me. That's why when it finally came to Starline, we decided to overthrow them, Alexander said. Overthrow them? What are you talking about? Dorothea said. We stole the Spire. Then we killed anyone who might have known what we did. Your parents were good friends with the king. I couldn't risk it, Alexander said. Dorothea felt cold. It was like the words had pierced into her heart and left a large gaping hole. The both of you killed my parents? But why did you take me in then? Dorothea mustered. Alexander and Starline looked at each other and then back at Dorothea. There were people near where the fire spread. I figured that if I took you in, no one would suspect that we had ill intentions, Alexander said. Dorothea shot up and grabbed a vase from a nearby wardrobe and shattered it on the ground. You fucking bastards! How could you do that to me? Dorothea yelled. Dorothea, you must understand, Alexander said. No! You understand. You took them away from me and now you bring me here so I can be neglected for the rest of my life? What the fuck were you thinking? Dorothea yelled. She swung around, walked through the door frame, and grabbed the double doors. I'm telling your people what you did. They need to know, Dorothea said, slamming the doors. Dorothea wandered into the main square of the town. People were all around her going about their business. She got up on a wooden crate she had borrowed from the flower cart lady and began to get the crowd's attention. Everyone, I have to make an announcement, Dorothea said. The crowd turned to her as they prepared to take in her words. The king has been lying to you. He didn't betray his family to protect you. He did it to gain the power of the Spire, Dorothea said. The people looked puzzled as they looked at each other. And what proof do you have of this? A man said. They told me themselves. They murdered my parents, Dorothea said. Everyone fell silent. Suddenly a woman spoke from the crowd. Why would you make up such a hurtful lie about the royal family? She said. Why would I make up something like that? I'm being serious, Dorothea said. Maybe it's you who craves power and not the people who saved our lives, another man said. They didn't save your lives, they don't even care about you, Dorothea said. Don't you ever say something like that again. They've done everything for us, another woman said. Dorothea fell silent as she tried to figure out a way to diffuse the crowd. The way they looked at her was dastardly. They had no remorse for Dorothea, nor did it look like they could be swayed to her side. A large clump of mud struck Dorothea in the face. Serves you right, bitch, someone from the crowd screamed. Others started balling up mud as well as they bombarded the girl with projectiles. Dorothea rushed off the box as she tried to push her way to the crowd and towards safety. Once she made it out, she was utterly filthy. She ran down the street as the crowd dissipated behind her. Yeah, fuck off, why don't you? Someone yelled as they went back to their business. Dorothea returned home and decided to take a bath. Once she was done, she returned to her bedroom wearing a green dress as she looked at her semi-dry, curly hair in the mirror. A knock came to her door as she was about to brush. She put the comb down and approached the door. On the other side was Katina, with a wide grin on her face. I heard the townsfolk didn't take your story lightly, Katina said. They should have. You knew about it? Dorothea said. I just found out. It makes sense, really. Mom and Dad were never the greatest people anyways, Katina said. So, you don't even care about what they did? About the people they killed? Dorothea said. If they deserved it, they deserved it. If it meant me getting these powers, I'd say it was worth it, Katina said. Dorothea clenched her fists. She looked back at her desk, where a small knife rested on the wood. Was it worth my parents' lives? Dorothea said angrily. Without a doubt, Katina said. Nikolai walked down the corridor towards Dorothea's room. He had heard that Katina was planning on poking fun at the girl. He took this as the perfect opportunity to join in on the fun. He grabbed the doorknob to the room and slowly creaked it open. "Hey, pisspot, I heard that," Nikolai said. In the middle of the room was Katina's dead body. Kneeling over her was Dorothea, leaning over the corpse, doing something strange to her midsection. "Katina?" Nikolai mustered. Dorothea slowly raised her head as she slowly turned to face him. There was blood dripping from her mouth as her disheveled hair hung from either side of her face. Worse yet, her eyes were green. She had stolen the power of the old god from Katina. Anger festered in her as she glared upon her adopted brother. She cast a stream of flames through the doorway, engulfing Nikolai in green fire. He screamed as the flames burned his skin off and sent him to the floor in agony. He died shortly after as his charred remains emitted smoke into the air. Dorothea stepped over him and made her way through the castle. She swayed from side to side, almost in a trance, as she felt nothing in her heart. She had no remorse for what she did, or what she planned to do. The royal guards came in brandishing spears. They saw the remains of Nikolai behind her and deduced that she was, in fact, the culprit they were looking for. Dorothea burned them too. Embers flared in the reflection of her eyeballs as she carried out her dastardly deeds. One man got close enough to hit Dorothea. In retaliation, Dorothea grabbed his lower jaw and ripped it clean off. Blood spilled from his face as he died on the spot. Dorothea threw the jaw across the hall, colliding with the door to the main chamber. The doors creaked open to reveal Starline at the other side. "My God, Dorothea, what are you doing?" Starline said it in horror. The tapestry around Dorothea began to catch fire. It started spreading across the room as Alexander watched from behind Starline. "Fuck every single one of you bastards," Dorothea said. She ran at Starline and started delivering blows to her face and ribs. Starline fought back, hitting her in the neck and shoulders. Their increased strength made every hit feel like a sword had lodged through their body. Dorothea threw Starline up against the wall and began breaking her arms. She managed to break one, and before Starline raised the other one. As green light began to emit from her fingertips, Dorothea began to feel herself getting bonier and slimmer. She looked down at her body and saw that it was shriveling away. "I told you giving life wasn't the only thing this power could do," Starline said. Dorothea looked at herself and then to her hand. Green light began to emit from her fingertips as she pointed it back at herself. Her body began to go back to normal to the dismay of Starline. "That's not fair. You can't do that," Starline said in bewilderment. "My life wasn't fair," Dorothea said as she punched straight through Starline's skull. She pulled her arm out and looked over at Alexander, who was standing by the spire. He immediately ran towards the other set of double doors and exited the room. Dorothea followed him as he ran up a stairwell towards the roof. Once there, he stopped when he realized he had nowhere to go. In the distance, the townsfolk could be seen walking back to their homes for the night. "Everyone hear me now!" Alexander yelled. The townsfolk stopped and turned to him. "She has killed the princess! Dorothea must be put to death!" Alexander yelled. Dorothea made it up the stairs and pushed Alexander off the roof. His body fell on a rock down below, breaking his back and killing him. The onlookers saw her on the rooftop, looking over them. As she surveyed the crowd, one person stood out to her in particular. She saw Soren looking at her with a fearful expression on his face. Others in the crowd damned her name and called her all sorts of horrible things. They hated her, and to be truthful, she did too. She raised her hand again as her fingertips glowed green once more. Before Soren's very eyes, the entire crowd began to shrivel and wither away. Bodies lined the streets as the castle, engulfed in green fire, loomed over them. Soren looked back at the castle one last time before running for his life. Dorothea could have killed him too, but she couldn't. He didn't deserve that. As Soren left and made his way out of the town, Dorothea escaped the rooftop and made her way through the front gates of the castle. The royal family was gone, along with its legacy. She was now the most powerful person in all of existence. Soren made it to another town as he relayed his story. Dorothea, according to rumors, had grown hungry. She began taking other kingdoms and expanding her empire. She would soon be coming to where Soren was. Nothing could stop her. Soren could do nothing but keep running. On one of those days, Soren knew he wouldn't be able to run any longer. Only one thing was made certain to the last member of the Seldredet family. Wherever Dorothea went, she brought a new Dark Age with her. And when it reached him, he knew that it would mean the end of everything. Thank you guys so much. That was Ravenous. Be sure to like and subscribe, and as always, have a wonderful day.